It's another happy day in Carnarvon, but the real police grunt work has only just begun. Yeah, there are a few tools there, Malcolm. You're one of them. A lot of it's also leaking from the arses of the 11,000 head of cattle that Twiggy's running on his latest station in the Kimberley.
Another huge day in Carnarvon.
Everyone's basking in the reflected glory on this one. The Premier flew in and out in just a few hours, made it through the media to meet Cleo and her parents, delivered some cute teddies, posed for the obligatory hero group shot, and then came back to reality, fixing overcrowded hospitals and drawing the roadmap out of COVID. It's another happy day in Carnarvon, but the real police grunt work has only just begun. More than 24 hours after Cleo was found, we still didn't have any charges.
Things didn't move as fast as expected.
Cops are meant to lay charges within a reasonable time. It's usually about 24 hours after they take someone into custody. They can hold you for 6 hours, no questions asked. After that, they need to apply for a 6-hour extension from a senior officer. Needs to hold a rank of sergeant or above, and he or she can't be connected to the case. After 12 hours, if you still haven't been charged, the cops need to get permission from a magistrate to continue holding you for up to another 8 hours.
But what happens if it goes past that time?
There are all sorts of things that can affect the time frame, and we don't know exactly what's going on in Carnarvon at the moment. If a cop pulls you over and just says, hey, come down to the station and answer a few questions, and you say, yeah, then you're not actually under arrest. You're just assisting police with their inquiries, which is something we've all heard said. Or you could be held under the Health Act because a magistrate deems you not to be competent. You could be in hospital. You might be under police guard, not in police custody. That clock isn't ticking if that's the case. Once you're charged, they need to bring you before a court within 24 hours for a bail application hearing. If you don't make an application for bail, you're remanded in custody. If you do try to get bail, an entirely new process kicks in.
What dictates if you do get bail?
Well, one of the things a magistrate has to consider is the safety of the accused.
Well, then it's got to get listed.
That could take a couple of months. And in this case, you're not looking at a trial until mid-2023 at the earliest.
COVID?
That's contributed. The wheels of justice turn particularly slowly at the moment. Before he even enters a guilty or not guilty plea, there'll likely be arguments about his mental capacity, and then he's entitled to police disclosure. The cops have to tell him and his lawyer what their evidence is, which they're probably still collecting.
That's why there's 100 cops up in Carnarvon still.
Rod Wild says every cop on the beat up there has been dragged into this case.
A lot of police officers from Carnarvon that have been tied up in this operation as well, who are still assisting us, so that puts a drain on local resources.
It's a sea of blue. They've had to bring up beds so they've got somewhere to sleep. Right now, the most important police officer in the world is the specialist child interviewer who is speaking to Cleo Smith.
There's a lot at stake.
We all think the kids make stuff up, but criminologists say they're actually great witnesses if they trust the person speaking to them. The cop talking to Cleo can't just say, tell us what happened, because 4-year-olds can't comprehend these events. So the officer has got to get the information out of her by asking questions. Did someone put you in a car? Was someone with you the whole time? Cleo needs to be comfortable enough to say to an adult, no, that didn't happen.
We have specialists here that we've brought up for Perth. They'll sit down with the family as well, and it'll take as long as it takes. Sometimes it takes a couple of days.
Getting her trust is critical. That police officer sitting there won't be in uniform. They'll probably be sitting on the floor with her when they're talking as well. And the cops have to be careful what they tell Ellie and Jake about the case.
We share with them what information we can.
Because they can't have Cleo's parents contaminating her memory.
It's going to take time.
It's been one of the most frantic police operations in WA's history, but every part of this case now moves in slow motion. The person watching it closer than anyone is this woman. That's Amanda Forrester. She's WA's Director of Public Prosecutions. Rod Wild, everyone's favourite cop, has to hand everything to the DPP because the charges will be indictable. Once a plea is entered, we start a process called state committal. This is lawyer speak for saying the police hand it all over to Amanda and it goes before a superior court. In this case, it will be the district court. Supreme Court only hears murder and manslaughter trials.
Tell you what, you sounded like you wanted to kill Malcolm Turnbull this morning.
Turnbull did an interview from Glasgow. He's there because he's the chair of a company called Fortescue Future Industries. This is the company Andrew Forrest created to generate green energy and save the world. And hasn't Malcolm drunk the Kool-Aid?
You know, Andrew Forrest is leading the charge here. I mean, he is literally leading globally here in Glasgow.
Twiggy's latest fixation, which is an admirable one, is green hydrogen. That's hydrogen created by passing an electrical current through water to split the H from the O. The electricity used must be generated from wind or solar or hydro. He's building a green hydrogen plant in Queensland, working with African nations to solve their energy crisis and signing deals with Brazil.
Well, we've got to start somewhere, and green hydrogen might be the silver bullet.
It might be. Once someone actually works out how to do it, nobody's produced this stuff at scale, anywhere. And we have no idea how we're going to transport it when we do work out how to produce it. It's 20 times more explosive than petrol. Good on Andrew for having a crack at this, but let's not forget that he's flying around the world in a private plane, burning God knows how many tonnes of jet fuel every hour, so he can lecture us about how fossil fuels are killing the planet.
He's no orphan there.
True. Then he comes home to check on his company Fortescue Metals Group, which goes through 500 million litres of diesel fuel each year digging up the Pilbara. And once he's happy that FMG's burning the midnight oil and supplying China's steel mills, which are some of the biggest sources of world carbon emissions, he gets back in his jet to go to New South Wales to check on, wait for it, the liquefied natural gas import terminal he's building there. This thing is going to handle 100 petajoules of gas each year. I have no idea what a petajoule is. But apparently this will be able to supply 70% of New South Wales gas needs. That's how confident Twiggy is in green hydrogen. He's got a $250 million fossil fuel backup plan.
He's admitted he's part of the problem.
Yes. It's still a bit hypocritical though. That import terminal will probably take gas from Woodside, the company Twiggy slagged for building a hydrogen plant at Kwinana that uses gas. And behind Woodside will likely be Santos, the company Malcolm Turnbull bagged for having a crappy diorama at the Team Australia stand at COP26.
The most prominent part of that is a promotion from Santos, a gas company, spruiking their plans for carbon capture and storage.
What's Turnbull even doing there?
Ask him.
My goal here is to get more determination and conviction to make renewables reliable with the tools, the technologies that are here now.
Yeah, there are a few tools there, Malcolm. You're one of them. He spent half this interview slagging Morrison for upsetting the French. Like we owe the French anything. What have the French done for us except drag us into wars they couldn't be bothered fighting? And then he went on to bag the coal industry, which China needs to create steel from Twiggy's iron ore for producing too much methane.
That is making an enormous contribution to global warming now, and we have to address it.
He just wouldn't let it go.
Emission of methane, much of it leaking from natural gas extraction.
A lot of it's also leaking from the arses of the 11,000 head of cattle that Twiggy's running on his latest station in the Kimberley. I'm Ben Harvey.